Hey everybody, Derick Van Ness here, wealth strategist, investor, and life enthusiast. And I want to share something with you today, and it's really, how do you manage your money effectively, right? Like a lot of people are really focused on making more money, but they aren't keeping very much, right? You're kind of on the financial treadmill. So my goal today is I'm going to give you 3 key things to think about so that you have a permission-based spending plan. You can go out, you can live a life you love, you can do it responsibly, you can grow your wealth, and you can get all of that in line. And we're going to keep it really simple, no like craziness here. I'm going to break this down into 3 key components so that you are super clear. You don't have to deal with all the mumbo jumbo, and you can actually take action on this, because if you get clear on your money, you will make progress. And if you aren't, I promise you will go backwards, right? I did a whole video on if you think you're breaking even, you're lying to yourself. It's one of my first videos. Go back and check it out. But here's the key. We got to get clear. If you don't have a plan for your money, someone else does. They'll say, send it over here. Promise you we'll take care of it. So we want to get clear and conscious about what we're doing with our money. So let's get started. And by the end of this video, I promise that if you follow these 3 steps, you will have a very clear picture of what's happening with your money, how to live a life you love, how to get ahead, how to move forward every single month, every single year, even in tough times like a lot of people are going through right now. Okay? So let's do this. So step number 1, I want you to get really clear on what I call your bare bones budget, right? What are the bills that you have to pay, and how much are those every single month? I'm not talking about going to Vegas. I'm not talking about spending sprees. I'm not talking about going out to dinner. If you had to lock it all the way down, pay your mortgage or rent, pay your car payments, basic food, basic insurances, that kind of stuff, right? I'm not even talking about savings here. I'm just talking about your bare minimum. Now, if you don't know how to find this number, what you're going to want to do is pull out your last 3 months of bank statements and start going through them. And I want you to tally those up. Now, the second thing you're going to be looking at, so I want you to you'll do these kind of side by side, is the how we like to live budget. In other words, when things are going well, how much do you normally spend? And you can get a general idea just by looking at your bank statement, and it says dollars in and dollars out, right? How much income and how much expense. Now, that doesn't account for a lot of things. It doesn't account for 401ks. It doesn't account for separate savings accounts. It doesn't account for investments. But that'll give you a general ballpark. But what you want to be clear on is how much do I need to live right here? And then how do I like to live right here, right? And a lot of times, let's say how you like to live is $7,000 a month, and how much you really need to live is $4,500. So there's $2,500 of disposable income, savings, investments, fun, going out to eat, saving for vacations, all that kind of stuff, right? That's in there every month. So go through your bank statement. I want you to get clear on how do we normally like to live? And if there's some really big, weird expenses in there, you want to take that into account. Or if you're missing one for some reason, you want to take those into account. But you'll get a pretty good idea of what do we need that's essential and what do we like to have. Those are going to give you a buffer between absolute necessary and your normal living, okay? So I want you to get clear. That's kind of step 1 is bare bones, and step 2 is how we like to live. Now, once you have those, there's a caveat. There's some bills that don't come due every 3 months or every month. And there are unexpected yet really expected expenses. Things like tires for your car, or a roof for your house, or a water heater for your house. We know those things are going to happen. We don't always know when, but we know they're going to happen. If we don't account for those, they're going to cave in our budget eventually, right? And there's other key things like birthdays, holidays, family vacation, taxes, vehicle taxes, especially if you live in a place with high taxes, property taxes, which in some states, I know in Texas, they're really high, or almost bought some rental properties in Indianapolis, and the city there has some very high property taxes. Those may come due once or twice a year. If they're not included in your mortgage payment, you have to take those into consideration, right? So there's those expected expenses, and then there's the unexpected expected, which is the maintenance and all that. And all that money is going to go into a sinking fund. So let's say, for easy math, you spend $1,200 on gifts for the holidays, for Christmas and Thanksgiving and all that stuff. So maybe you just set aside $100 a month that goes into that account and is building up. So at the end of the year, instead of credit cards or dipping into savings or whatever, you've got the money in there just for that, right? Like, that's a super simple example. But you're going to add that to your bare bones budget, and you're going to add that because it is bare bones. If you don't have tires for your car, or if you don't get it maintained, it's going to be a problem. And then you also want to add that into your how we like to live budget. Another thing you're going to add into your how we like to live budget, once you've done those two, is you're going to add in savings. I want you to add in 10 to 20% of savings. We think everybody should be saving about 20% of what you make for retirement, for safety, for times like what's been going on with the pandemic lately. We want to have cash on hand, and we have systems for helping you to save some of that. But long story short, you need to account for that in your budget, in your how we like to live budget. That's not your bare bones budget, right? So I'm going to have you add that 10 to 20% in your how we like to live budget, because truly, if you're living the way you want to live, you should be saving. We think you should save that 20%, set it aside, and be growing and getting wealthier every single month. We've got systems for that. That's a whole nother topic on how to save and everything, but you want to build that into that budget. Now, I'm going to tell you real quick, the reason that I figured some of this out was back in 2008, when things got really difficult for me, I had to get really clear. There was how I was living, and there was stuff that really had to get paid, but I didn't necessarily need. And honestly, the gap was much larger than I realized. Honestly, just going through my bank statements and like really clearing out all the stuff that I didn't need, I wasn't using. A lot of it was business related, but it was almost $3,000 a month that was just like going out the window that I really wasn't even using, didn't need. That didn't include going out to dinner and all the other stuff that was on top of that. So there can be quite a large gap there. Don't get caught like I did with this sinking feeling of, oh my gosh, how have I been spending so much? Because at that point I was making great money, several $100,000 a year, and didn't need to worry so much about money, right? $30,000, $40,000 a month coming in. If you spend an extra 100 on dinner, who cares, right? Most people aren't in that boat, but I got hit in the face with the right hook on that one. Didn't understand how much I was wasting. So this is your chance to kind of go in and check that out. Here's what's cool about this. Once you get clear on this and you've set aside money for savings and a sinking fund and everything else, then you don't feel guilty because you've saved for your vacation, you've saved for the tires for the car, you've saved for the holidays or other things that you want to do in your life. Now when you go and spend that money, it's because you've already saved for it. You're not worried about it. It's not coming out of some mystery pot. You're not wondering, what are we going to miss out on for doing it? This is how you start to create peace of mind. You start to get really, really clear on what you actually want and what you actually need to spend. Hey, real quick, while we're going through this, if you like what's happening here, please click the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, and pass this on to people that you know and love. We're really here. I'm really doing my best to help you have simple ways to look at money and finances so you can do better with your life. If you do that, it really helps us with YouTube and helps us get the word out. So I appreciate it. Now back to the show. So here's the third component. You've got bare bones, you've got how we like to live, but what happens is you make more money, right? The natural inclination for people is, I make more, I spend more. I make an extra dollar, I spend an extra dollar. Actually, a lot of people, it's I make $1, I spend $1.10, or I spend $2 because they're like, oh, we're doing really well, we can spend more money. Don't fall into that trap. So the reason we want to have the how you like to live budget is everything you make over and above the how we like to live budget, there needs to be a plan for those dollars, okay? So I advocate that you have 3 bank accounts at least. The 3 are your main checking account that you're going to balance and do most things with. You're going to have your savings account, and then you're going to have our extra money account, right? So when we make extra money, let's say, like I said, you'd like to live on $7,000 a month, but you made $8,000 this month. So what do you do with the extra $1,000? I don't know, right? So you want to have a plan for that money because, as I've said many, many times, if you don't have a plan for your money, somebody else does. And they'll find a way to get you to buy the nicer car, buy a new suit, or that pair of shoes, or that extra handbag, or whatever it is that you're into. They will find a way to get you to spend it. So we want to have a plan. And some of that money, when you're doing well, you want to be able to spend more and do nice things, but you don't want to spend dollar for dollar, right? So every extra dollar over and above that $7,000, you want to have a plan. 25% of that goes to savings. We're going to be a little more aggressive with our savings when we're making good money. 35% of that, let's say, is for fun money. We can go out to nicer dinners. We can buy the handbags. We can do things. Do not obligate yourself to long-term payments with this money. But if you want to go buy some fun things, do some fun things, throw a little extra in the vacation fund, this is a way you can do that. So give yourself a percentage of that. And then you may have a percentage for vacations or extravagant things, or once-in-a-lifetime trips, or fancy stuff for your car or your hobbies or your whatever, or saving for your next rental property. Whatever your goals are, you want to allocate that dollar by a percentage, 20% here, 30% here, 15% here. I would keep it pretty simple. I like to do about an extra 30% to savings myself, 30% for fun, and then the other 40%, I use it and I look for where are the opportunities where I can really grow and use that in my business, right? So that's an example. So if I got $1 or I got an extra $1,000, $300 of that would immediately go to savings, 300 of that would go to, this is after taxes of course, 300 to savings, 300 to me to do whatever I want with, and then $300 for my business investments. So the reason you have the third account is for a lot of that extra money. If you make an extra grand this month and you've got $300 extra, you don't want to have to spend it this month. Maybe you can let that build up so you can have a really awesome vacation or whatever. So that $300 goes into that third account, right? That extra dollars account where you can then use it to have fun and do the things that you want. You can let it build up and do something really awesome, or you can chip away at it as you go and get some extra fancy stuff or whatever you're into. Yeah, like I like to buy photography equipment, and I like to buy lots of stuff for my business, widgets and apps and all that kind of stuff. I love technology. So whatever your thing is, that's the direction you want to go. So we've got bare bones budget, we've got how we like to live budget, and we've got a plan for our extra dollars. If you can get really clear on these numbers, you'll know what you have, what you want to have, and what you do with extra. If you can implement those three things, you're going to be miles ahead of everybody else. Also, once you do this, you're going to want to review this budget, maybe in 3 months, but typically once you've been doing it a while, because it takes a minute to get it all figured out. There'll be things you forgot and you missed, some stuff that goes into the sinking fund, and you'll get a real good idea of what that really looks like. But once you get it going, you want to review this every 6 months. Reallocate your income, and look at that and review it. If you're a business owner, sometimes it goes up and down and whatever. So you want to get really clear about what does my cash flow look like? Do I have better or worse parts of the year? How do we set aside money in the good times for the slow times? And just kind of start balancing that out. The only way you're going to do that is with greater awareness. Guess how you get greater awareness? You pay attention to these things. You start tracking them. You don't need to spend a ton of time. You can probably do this initially in an hour, maybe 2 at most. Then check in with it. I think you should, as a minimum, you should check in, look at your books once a week and just see what's going on. Potentially have meetings with your spouse once or twice a month. What did we spend? Where are we headed? What do we expect for the future? And just keep that dialogue open. What happens is as you pay attention to and talk about money and how that's flowing through your business, you get better and better and better at it. I can't tell you how many business owners, how many people I work with who are really smart people, they're good at making money, have no idea what their expenses are, what they're spending it on, when they make extra, where does it go, no plan whatsoever. That's why they're on the treadmill. So this is your chance to get off the treadmill. Figure out your 2 budgets, figure out where you're going to go with your extra money, and put it into play. Set up a system. When are you going to review it? When are you going to check in on that weekly, or how are you going to do that? And systematize as much of it as you can. Anyway, my name is Derick Van Ness. If you have other questions or comments on this, please comment below. please pass this on to anybody that you know who could benefit from this. And let us know how we can answer your questions or help you do better. We're all about financial strategy. I know if we can get money out of the way and help you live your biggest and best life, we've done our job. Anyway, I'll see you on the next video, and thanks for the subscribes, likes, and comments.